Hey, what's going on? What's going on, yo? Checking in, man, for a weekly check-in. You good, fam? Every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, or what is it? 9 a.m. Mountain Time. Yo, man, big up to everybody. Hope everyone is doing well. Man, I'm just out here in beautiful Banff, man, just checking out the culture, checking out the scene. It's incredible, man. I'm looking forward to today's conversation. We're going to be talking about indigenous and African intersections of heritage, as well as raising youth or children who identify as black and indigenous, because, a lot of intersections, lots of cultural connections. So we're going to get into it. Got to big up my peoples, them. And I see that we got Nichole here. Yes, bless up. And we're going to get this conversation started. Hey, big up, big up, big up.
Oh,
How are you doing?
we're doing good here. Now we'll move back a
Amazing,
little bit on
yes.
our.
And you have your daughter here. My daughter, she's still sleeping. And I tried to see if she'd be open to being part of the live, but she's not ready for that yet. She's like, what do I say? I'm like, just be yourself. And she's like,
Yeah,
no.
Naz, actually, you helped me. I'm not very good with Instagram, so
I love it, right?
Naz got up, started to help us, and then I said, "Oh, you want to come and stay and be a part of this conversation?"
I love it. Big up Naz and your brilliance. I love that. The future generations and it just really shows how
Move back
things
to
are
the.
it really shows how things are intergenerational.
Mm-hmm.
Each one
Yes.
teach one, and I think that's really, part of our culture, like both of ours, to really like learn from each other. So I love seeing like real life examples in real time. So big up, big up, big up. That's incredible, man. So I just want to big up everyone who's joining the conversation. Usually before we start, we start with like a check-in, just to kind of gauge, where people are at, like, how they're feeling. So for those who are on the call, if you want to go in the comment section and just let us know how you're feeling on a scale from 1 to 10. One being not so great, 10 being amazing, fantastic. You can let us know. Um, but I guess like I'll just start with you two. Like how are you all feeling this morning? Like on a scale from 1 to 10, what would you say you're at?
How are you, Naz?
Like an 8 or 9.
A 9. Okay, man. Top of the morning, Monday morning vibes. Spirits are high. I love it. Amazing.
Um,
Yeah.
I'm probably at like a 8 or a 7, only because there's been a lot going on this week with
Mm,
our communities. Um,
absolutely.
so I'm just a little tired, but it's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what's up. That's what's up. Yeah, me, I'm feeling about like a 10. Like right now I'm in Banff, like Alberta, so just like taking in the culture. It's really incredible out here. Just out here visiting family, and I've just fallen in love with the West. Like I might save that for like another live, just to really process all the stuff that I've been soaking in. If you love nature, if you love like the outdoors and anything of that nature, like this is where it's at. Like it's really incredible actually. So I'm definitely feeling on the higher vibes. What else do we got here? I see Sankofa FCS says that they're at a 9. So big up, big up. Shadow Symbolic, man, feeling at an 8. Love those vibes, man. Yeah, man, everybody's on a higher vibration, and there's definitely a lot going on within our communities. A lot of things have been, brought to our attention that should have been brought to our attention like a long time ago. But it just really shows that there's like a lot of work to do, a lot of healing, and we all got to, figure out how we can contribute together, however that looks like. So always being open to that. And yeah, man. So I guess like, we can just get started, into today's topic, and I'm so grateful that you're able to join us on such short notice. I just sent you a quick text and I was like, I know it's last minute, but right away, as usual, like you're someone who's like really rooted in community and always, willing to contribute. So I thank you for that. And, I'm still like remembering when you came to like our boys group and, shared with us and like just the vibration, your energy. And I was like, yo, man, she's dope, yo. Like she just brings things to a whole nother level. And the way how you're able to like connect with people and really bring that, spiritual connection with everything you do, and you're also like a hip hop head too. So I was like, yo, man, this is just like,
Yeah,
come
want
on,
to see
man.
my shirt?
Yeah,
Look,
yeah.
look, look.
Come
It's
on.
Dragon Ball Z,
Wow.
Spankonia vibe.
Wow. Look at
We're
that.
here for today.
That's incredible. And that's what I mean. Like, there's so many different intersections from like, like African heritage to First Nation, Indigenous heritage, and culture. And I just thought like you would be like one of the best peoples to really help guide this conversation. So that being said, yeah, big up to everyone. For those who are just joining us again, this is our weekly check-in called You Good Fam, and we'd like to create like a virtual space for everyone to just reconnect, especially in the time of like social distancing and isolation or whatever. We want to make these kinds of connections accessible. Shout out Jolene saying that she is eight-ish. Days of 5 out of 5, but she's being off of work. Okay. I know she works super hard in the community. So it's great to see my people's, taking time to rest. 'Cause I saw this post the other day that says that rest is a revolutionary act. And I felt that. I really felt that. I was
Yes.
like, yeah, it really is. And sometimes as people like us who are so embedded and so rooted in community, sometimes we feel guilty for taking rest. Like we're not doing enough, but you are always doing enough. You always are enough, and definitely do not feel guilty for taking time for yourself. Absolutely.
And it
Yeah.
actually combats that capitalism, right? Because they
Hmm.
we're meant to be either eliminated or workers for that capitalist society. So actually resting, it is like you say, a revolutionary act. Like it's
Yeah.
self-preservation and care of our community. Yeah,
Mm.
100%.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's get right into it, man. So intersections of African and Indigenous First Nation heritage. I'm just want to put out there like what comes up for the two of you. Like when I say that, like what comes up, like the similarities and just the vibes. Yeah.
Well, maybe now I'll let you speak first because it's your lived experience, right?
Mm.
As that intersection.
Mm,
It's okay. Well, maybe like
Well,
music.
I'll
Is
speak
there? Okay,
at
sure.
first as a mom, you know, being within my culture. I was raised with my grandmother. I don't know my birth mother, so
Okay.
for me, my grandmother is Wendat from the Ottawa Valley area, and also like a residential school survivor. So for me, being raised with her, I got a lot of some of our teachings, but it's
Hmm.
more that spiritual aspect. And I do remember one time I was young, and my aunt actually went to Jamaica because her in-laws, I guess, had a travel agency company, so they took off there because we're in poverty, we can't,
Right.
they couldn't really afford to travel, and they took my nanny, right, Catherine Martel, and I remember she came back and she said to me, "Oh, Nichole," she had a picture of a Rastaman, right? And she
Mm.
said, "These are people of the land like us. If you ever
Mm.
get a chance to meet a Rastaman in your lifetime," I was little, um,
Wow.
"you have to give them much respect because they're like our people. They know the
Mm.
land, they're in touch with the land, and basically like they're people of the land." And so that stuck with me,
Mm.
all of my life. So of course, when Nazarene's dad, he's from Trinidad,
Okay.
came into my life, I automatically, he was a Bobo Shanti Ras.
Okay.
Automatically, because I had those early teachings, I automatically had great love and admiration just for, to me, I always knew, these are people of the land.
Mm.
They're just further down. They're like our brothers and sisters further
Absolutely.
down. But then at the same time too, I wasn't too sure. I didn't understand Caribbean history
Right.
and,
Right.
and what that meant for the people there. So once I had a relationship with Nazarene's dad, he explained to me of the Carib and the Arawak and those brought from Africa down there. So it was, for me, I'm learning of, just like if he's learning about my Wendat culture, our people here.
Right.
And so for me, raising Nazarene is really important that I understand as a parent. Like I said this, we were lucky just before the pandemic, we got to meet, we got to go to a conference with Angela Davis.
Oh
And
yes. Wow. That's
it was
amazing.
it was beautiful. And I said to myself, because we were there with your friend Nadani, who's Cuban and Sri Lankan, right? And so there's another intersection
Absolutely.
there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And I thought we're in the back, you know, and I thought this can't be their experience. Like Nazarene actually and Nadani actually have to speak, and they also Nadani's from Regent, right?
Okay. Okay.
So they have a different Nazarene comes from Kingston and Galloway with us,
Right.
right?
Right.
And Angela talks about that open air prison, and I thought
Mm.
I need to talk to her. So I asked a question, and I introduced. So we got to actually speak to Angela, and my question was, and I've always known this, having Nazarene ever since she was a baby.
Hmm.
I can teach her what it means to be an Indigenous woman, but I could
Mm.
never teach her what it means to be a Black woman. So there, I
Mm.
would have to share parenthood in a very different way than I do, say, with your little sister Indiana, where you know she's Ojibwe, so
Hmm.
she's
Hmm.
more she a different nation, but still,
Indeed.
yeah, lots of similarities.
Yeah.
But for your Trinidadian family, that's a history that I can't ever live. I can only support, and
Mm.
so and I asked her like, what would that mean? Like, what you know, what is your advice? You know, Angela Davis, for us, and what did Angela say to you? Remember? I know you're nervous, and you're nervous now
Okay.
too.
I'm trying to
Remember
remember.
to get basically what you're doing now, Naz, to get active.
Yeah,
Mm.
in the community.
Yep.
Not to be just like sitting around and doing nothing.
I
To
love
get
that.
active.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's so important to be active, and sometimes you may not know what to do because you see other people who may be more seasoned and have more experience, so you may get intimidated. But just being there and being open-minded to the process, I think you eventually get that space, and that's just like my daughter as well. Like she lives in Montreal with her mom, and her mom is originally from Gaspésie, which is Quebec, the East End. So she's part of the Mi'kmaq people, Métis, and they do a lot of like cultural events and connections. And just like you mentioned, like I can only support. Like I don't know what it's like to be an Indigenous woman, especially in these times. And so what I do with my daughter, I just hold space and ask her questions, and I'm really interested in her being able to like express like her emotions and feelings because there is a lot going on on both sides of the fence, whether it's like what's happened in the Black community as well as in her Indigenous spaces as well. And I know that now that I have her here over the summer, I'm going to be bringing her around, all my peoples, including you too. Like, so you'll definitely meet my daughter as well, and we'll have like a lot of conversation because I know that there's teachings. I know there's some stuff, and she's at that age where she's like she's curious, but she's unsure as well, because we're also in this like North American culture, and then there's TikTok and all these other things that she's being subjected to. But I really want her to be like, connected to like her roots and her identity, not just like the traumatic stuff. I mean, we do have to be aware of it, but also the stuff that can empower her, that can ground her in her like spirituality and her roots, so that she can, stand up firm and be like, this is who I am, and that's like the position that I see myself as, to ensure that. And it seems like you're doing like the work, like you're doing exactly that. You know, I want to talk about like I guess like the music, because that's one thing that I noticed with Indigenous culture and African or Jamaican culture specifically, because that's where my family's from. I'm like first generation Canadian, like whatever that means, but um, but like the drum has always been something that has connected me to like First Nation Indigenous peoples, and there was always something that I was always gravitated towards, and was just very familiar. Like it just felt like I know this, the drumming, just the way how the land would be described, and to like work with the land, not to take from it, but to share, to contribute, to always offer something was very important. That respect and just feeling just really really connected. I remember growing up in like French immersion and other spaces that just made me feel disconnected, and I didn't really understand why. But I remember being out in different like powwows, or I remember back in I think it was like the mid like 2000s when Six Nations was doing their thing, and I went out with Spin. Yo, shout out Spin.
I spin.
Yeah, man, that's my
That's sick.
homie, man. Like he really got me into like the activism and like just like you're saying, like being like active, like not just observing, but actually being there. So we got to go out to Six Nations and being with the people. And I remember they had like the barricades and like certain people were not allowed. You know what I mean? They were just not having it. And I rate them for that. But we were allowed. And I felt so humbled that I was allowed into this space and, sitting with the elders and hearing their story and just like what you mentioned about, the African connection, like we're cousins and the way how we connect and whatnot. It just made me become really present to that. And I was like, you know what? Even as someone, we have stolen from Africa, and I'm like, we need to do a lot more building with the First Nations peoples here, So I kind of see this conversation as like the beginning of that, and to keep this conversation going. But yeah, there's so much that it just feels right, and there's so much that we can learn from each other. And I think the more we build those intersections, like the stronger we all could be. I think it's a force to be reckoned with, most definitely. So.
Yeah, I love that you say that because it is true, and it's a fear of that industrial mindset. I love teachings of John Trudell. I hold very dear to me, and he always talks about that industrial like kind of class of
Yeah.
people who see the land as resource, see humans as resource, to dehumanize and take that out, and that our power is in knowing our humanity and our connection as tribal people. And
Indeed.
we're tribes from all over, either you're the industrial class or you're tribal. And that's
Right.
the way John Trudell sees it. And that industrial actually controls by the illusion of power. And the illusion of power is just authority, right? So then if we look at both of our nations, right?
Yes.
Those, that trying to enslave nations of people, trying to eliminate another or make into something else, and that's what they do with our communities. That's authority.
Right.
Where our power is connecting to one another, connecting to our humanity, and most of all, connecting to the land. And it's interesting because when we went to Grenada, I went to Grenada being a U of T student.
Okay.
I did a summer abroad, and we went to First Nations House, and they actually helped pay for Nazarene to come so that she can learn about the Arawak of the land. Her family being originally from, well, your dad and your grandma and all of them are from Trinidad, but of course come from other spaces. But your grandma and your dad is also Carib.
Right.
And,
Okay.
To actually be in Grenada, I think was like one of the best experiences that we could have. Now, I didn't want to take Grenada was nice because your dad wanted
beautiful.
He wanted to take Nazarene to Trinidad, and of course, as her mother, I also have to respect the fact that her dad would want to take her. So one day he plans to take her to Trinidad so he can show her homeland.
Right.
But you actually got a chance to see Caribbean life. How was that for you?
I really liked it. Everybody was like nicer down there than here. Like you just go outside and everybody was like good morning or hi. And like down here when we got back, everybody good morning or hi.
You know what? That's I love that simple, observation, because it's true in Caribbean life, like because everything's connected, like, like even if you don't know the person that you're seeing, like, it's just acknowledging another human life, and just that human connection. Out here, we're so disconnected from that. It's so true. And that was something that I absolutely adore about the Caribbean. The sense of community, sense of family. Of course, it has its own hiccups and, stuff like that. But, for the most part, like there is a sense of connection. Like it would be strange to like walk past someone and just not say good morning or hello, as if you're invisible, like that's incredible.
And like me coming from, it was the first time I left my land here. Like I get upset like thinking about it because it's like I felt like I was a part of a community like already.
Yeah.
Just being right there, I felt so welcome, so loved. And when I came back here, and like it's my home for generations.
Right.
And I felt so like I went back. Naz didn't come with me this time, but I went back for carnival because I just
Right.
missed the land so much.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
we were supposed to be there for your 16th birthday, but then COVID happened.
wow. Oh, so
And we
sorry to
know
hear
like
that.
Carla, Robinson, who we connected with, is like family now. So always checks in on us, and we always check in on them and see how they're
Right.
doing. So it's like now we have a family, and it's automatic.
And that happened in Jamaica too.
Yeah.
We still talk to some people.
Yep. So
Yeah.
we went to Jamaica, visit Jamaica as well, but we did stay in a resort.
Yeah.
Why I make the faces,
I-
because
No,
you know
go
how
ahead. Yeah.
resorts are to the
Right.
land. But I brought your Nazarene's older brother who is diabetic, and we hadn't mapped the land out yet.
Yeah.
And also too, I wanted to experience that because when we were in Grenada, to be able to see, stay with Grenadians.
Right.
Like we didn't
Right.
have that separation of
Right.
a resort or the school.
Right.
To experience what that felt like.
It is important. Yeah.
Yeah, and all we connected with, and then of course there's the staff there, right? Because the resorts do, there is a lot of oppression I can see, and I don't
Yeah.
have the lived experience, so I
Yeah.
don't want to speak too much about it, but I could see it as a
Right.
visitor.
Of course. Of
And
course.
but then also too that, I mean, there was people that were working there that came every day, and that's what made it was those who are in their locals that are in the resort, that's their home and that's their workplace,
Right.
and that's who we connected with.
Of
And
course.
there was even a time we still talk to Richard, who's like family. So we're
Amazing.
gonna go back once COVID happened and meet his family.
Yeah, because he took us outside of the resort for dinner or lunch.
Okay.
And then we let him eat with him, and he was like, "Oh, you're gonna let me eat with you? Normally,
Wow.
I just grab the people here and wait outside."
I couldn't imagine
Man.
that. Like
Man.
I said to him, because that's what he was going to picked us up lunch and then stood off to the side, and I thought, wait a minute, no, because our automatic thing is we're a guest in your home, right? Because that's an indigenous way of
Right.
of
Yeah.
being.
So.
And I'm like, we're good. We're eating you're treating us like, yeah. And he said to me, no, people don't do that.
Man.
And then I thought, oh my God, there's actually a lot of those people who I realized then a lot of people who do come to resorts don't see
No.
that.
No. I'm so glad you mentioned that. It's getting me emotional just thinking about that because, it's one of those things because we're spiritual people, and Jamaica's a very spiritual land. Like it's real, recognized real. So you don't even have to speak. From the moment you step into the place, they're like, yes, like that's one of us. And it's so true. Like I've definitely done the resort vibe, and I've stayed with family and friends and stuff like that. And me being a black man from Canada coming there, it's like sometimes people at the resort will look at me like I'm supposed to be working there, right? Because I look Jamaican, right? So, and then when I see the workers, they're just like, yo, it's the man them, and of course we'll have these side conversations, and of course me, I'm always curious about the real story, and the resort life is crazy, these are people who are just trying to get by and just trying to work, and the conditions are crazy. Most resorts don't even allow you to tip them when they're giving you all the service and stuff, and they try to just keep things so restricted, and the people who work there work so hard, and they're so loving and caring, and the disrespect that they get is outrageous. So exactly what you're talking about the driver taking him out, and I would have to low key give him his tips up, yo, hold that, and he's looking at it, he's like, yo, really? I'm like, don't worry, just I understand the system here, and feeding them. Of course you're gonna break bread. That's just strange for me to be eating in front of someone and not sharing. That's just that doesn't sit right in my spirit. So, but I'm so glad that that individual was able to get that experience, right? Because that's a dime a dozen. They don't really get people like that often, and when they do, it's a blessing. But for the most part, people travel to places like the Caribbean, especially Jamaica, because they know Bob Marley, Yaman, and other things or whatever. But they don't respect the land. They don't respect the people. It's very like
Yes.
colonial mindset, that industrial, you know, like you mentioned, and it's heartbreaking, you know, because Jamaica is one of those places that I see, and I'm like, it has so much potential, and people are just robbing it, and just, you know, it's nowhere near where it should be. Let's just say that, compared to like other islands, because I've been fortunate enough to travel to Grenada, St. Lucia, and a few other spaces, and I see their infrastructure, and I'm like, Jamaica's just like, you know. And just to mention, like, you know, like my daughter, you know, Aaliyah, like she was able to go to Jamaica with her mom, and she stayed on the resort, and she enjoyed that, got to swim with dolphins and stuff. And I'm like,
Mhm.
that's cute though. But I told her, I'm like, you know, when you're about like 16 or so, because I want her to be at a certain age where she can really appreciate the culture, so I can like bring her up into the mountains and be with the Rastas and the people, so that she can really absorb it, but also to see the similarities, you know, with their indigenous First Nation communities, you know, here and there. So I'm looking forward to that. But I'm glad that she got at least a glimpse, you know, just to really kind of connect. And she sees herself as Black and Indigenous. Like she's very proud of both cultures, and I'm so happy that she embraces both, you know, because that's exactly what it is. So
Because that's an important thing too. Like Nazarene makes me like, because we'll go and it's not that somebody gave me a teaching about the word being proud of. Like, you know, we always want to say we're proud of our children, right?
right.
But then proud also, they give me this teaching that pride, it's also linked to pride, right? And in the way
Mm,
of it's an expectation. So I automatically want to say that, but it's more of like, you amaze me.
yes.
That's it. And I feel so like admiration, because as you do, it's important because you bring us a connectedness. Like when you dance, you know, of course there's your visual of who we are in our makeup, in our
Right.
what we look like. But then her dad, Frost, he used to dance with us when we were together. So he used to have a grass regalia, and he beaded himself a Trinidadian pendant.
Yeah.
And he hasn't danced in a while, but he'll come out and dance.
He danced with me on a live a few months ago.
And so when Nazarene made her regalia, she asked her dad if she could borrow his Trinidadian beaded pendant, right?
Right.
And she wore it for a bit, but it was kind of big, so she made her own. So now when Nazarene goes up into spaces, like you bring that intersection where, say there's people from the Black community who might see our culture and feel like, oh, that's theirs.
Right.
Nazarene is the point to come up and be like, oh my gosh, I love your pendant. Oh, that.
Yeah, and then a family came up to me and they were like, oh, I love your outfit. And they were Black. And then they want to take pictures with me.
So you bring that community, and now instead of being something that maybe they might
Right.
just watched, now they
Yes.
can
go up and talk to me and take pictures if they want.
Yeah.
Feel more comfortable than like with you.
Yeah, so it's like now the way that I see it is like you provide that welcoming space to be to come into our circle,
Yes.
and for me that's so important, because like that's what unity and peace is. You know, when you said earlier, like people
Yeah.
think of Jamaica as like Bob Marley. When we really take the teachings that
Yes.
the whalers in him provided to the land, it's like, you know, we were not, until we come together and see ourselves as, or John Chudell says, as tribal people, you know, we'll always be under that capital and that industrial form of oppression. And this is, you know, as we know, this is what they fear, right? Is our
Yeah.
connection. So when you allow those watching us to like see themselves and be so proud and walk up to you, it makes me like this
I
is
know.
what we do it for, right? Like, look at this
Oh
is our
man.
pride,
No, I feel it. I really do. Oh my gosh.
and it makes me so. And this is the point of like Killa. I don't know his first name, but Gibran, you know, that author, the
Yes.
Lebanese author, when he talks about in his book, The Prophet, of our children not being our children.
Yes. Yes.
They're
Yes.
sons
Yes.
and daughters
Yes.
of tomorrow.
Oh.
I actually get to see it because like I'm like we're in a role. I'm the role of mother to Nazarene, but you're your own person. You
Indeed.
represent so much more. And that's why it's really important that, you know, as an Indigenous woman, having an Afro-Indigenous child, you're also, you have aunties out there that are beyond me. And
Yes.
they can teach you things that I cannot.
Man.
You know, we just saw on, what was it, Sunday when we were at Dundas Square? No, the first Thursday for that non-Canada Day.
Yeah. Tell me about that.
Of
Yeah.
Black women who came to me that they're on, now we're friends on Instagram. And they're gonna, I talked to, they were talking to me, right? As just as an Indigenous woman, and how we're similar in our oppressions and how we're people of the land. And so we started talking about these, and then I said, oh, here's my daughter. And then they looked at Nazarene, where she's from. So then when we walked over, what was do you remember the first thing they said to you?
They said hi and that they're my aunties.
Oh,
And
I love it.
That's what it's about, right?
It really is. Oh, I just love what you said, like, you know, inviting people into the culture, and you know, it's an experience. Like, it's not this like observer type of like space, you know, like you actually got to contribute and experience it. And I think like by the experience, that's what brings out the humanity, which is something that's often like forgotten and lost, you know. So it's beautiful to see like real life examples, and that's exactly how I see my daughter as well. You know, bridging those connections, and really showing that there isn't much that like really separates us. Like, you know, it really is like one, you know. It's just maybe different angles and different perspectives, but it's really one, you know. And it's just really beautiful to see. And you know, for me, like raising two daughters, you know, like these young women, like I'm really mindful of recognizing that, again, like they're not mine. I'm just this guardian here to recognize their gifts and talents, and just kind of like create this space for them to like really explore that and flourish. Because I feel like previous generations, because of so much different circumstances and whatnot, that mindfulness piece was kind of absent. You know, I think like a lot of like gifts have been missed and, you know, gone dormant and whatnot because of, you know, society pressures and whatnot. But I see this new generation of these, especially these young women that are coming up, you know, like that the confidence and just like the sense of knowing and the in-depth like spirituality that these children have. I mean, it's just so beautiful to see. And I'm just excited to see the new generation, because it's like, when I think about all the generations that came before us, you know, like I saw this meme, and it was really breaking down like how many grandmothers and great grandfathers and this and that, like that led up to this moment in time right now. I think it was like over like 4,000 like individuals or whatever, when you really break it down, you know, like each family member and all of that to lead up to this present moment in time. So we are here on purpose. Like, this is not an accident. Like, this conversation right now that we're having is not an accident. And we are living in that. So, you know, so that being said, like, you know, just being who you are is already the revolutionary act. You know, like sometimes I know as a young person, you may feel like you don't know whatever, but all you have to do is just stand there and just show up. You know what I mean? And then things will start flowing. You know, I'm a firm believer of that. You know, like whenever in doubt, just stand, you know, like be present. And then from there, things just start moving. I promise.
It's true, and I love how you talk about it being, because there's also the other intersection of, you know, our genders, our non, you know,
Yep.
those of us who might be non-binary. Like for me, I'm raising, you know, as a mother, I'm raising Nazarene, you know, my daughter.
Yes.
One of the roles that I find is very important for me, just in me and my experience with Nazarene, is also helping her, in not helping, more supporting the role of her father. Because sometimes, you know, I also tell her, you know, Nazarene, you're an Afro-Indigenous woman. You don't know what it's like to be a Black man.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what it's like.
Right. Right.
So I always say, you know, your dad, with certain things, like, try and be understanding. Like, you know, sometimes as,
Right.
as
Of
parents, like,
course.
sure, with me, she might get from another perspective, oh, your mom, you know, you go to your brother Justin, right? When I might be doing something, say, that might be, you know, a thing. I always say, you know, Nazarene, always be mindful, like, your dad has to walk in this world as a Black man.
Right.
Who not only, you know, he has a visible but when he speaks, he has a very thick Trinidadian accent. So there
Right.
that can come onto them, and you see that when you're in the car with him and the police pull him over, like all of those type of things, to understand. I mean, I don't understand it, but to have that eye and to see that, from him. So maybe sometimes you might just have that compassion. I think that's like as a mother, as having a child with someone who's like that difference, having that different
Yeah.
cultural aspect and that lived experience is just having a bit of understanding for that as well, because she might know what it's like to live as in the Black community, but not as a man
Right. Right.
and a
Right.
father, right? So,
Indeed.
and why you say
Indeed.
that, we give shout outs to your dad, love to press,
Absolutely. Wow. No, that's beautiful. Wow. So much, so much to say, like, and this is, to me, this is what like doing the work looks like. Like really being present and having those conversations, and again, it's a humanity piece, because yeah, like we're born into this physical reality in a certain way, and that's going to dictate a certain way of experiencing life, but that doesn't mean that we can't like stop in our space and then try to understand how someone else may be going through things, and having that empathy and compassion, which is so important, and I definitely have those conversations with my daughter as well, explaining the challenges, right? Because like, for example, like she lives in Montreal with her mom, and I explained to her, yeah, there's times where like I would love to be around as much as I can, as I would like to, but because of distance and so many other factors, that comes into play. And there's times, especially when it comes to like disciplining, and there's things that because sometimes her mom has to be like the mother and the father at the same time, the nurturer and the disciplinary, and then sometimes that creates a different dynamic. So I'm doing my like parenting through FaceTime and stuff like that. So when she's here in person with me, my younger daughter, like I see her all the time and whatnot. So when Aaliyah, my older daughter, is with me, I take her aside a lot more, and I have these like one-on-one conversations. And sometimes she gets a little frustrated and stuff, but I explain to her, I'm like, this is the time where I can like really be present and give you certain teachings and lessons and understandings that I normally wouldn't be able to do, or I can kind of do, but it's just obviously different and whatnot. And really just giving her like a broader perspective, and it's so helpful. Like again, like having those conversations consistently is super important. That mindfulness and compassion, and yeah, that's essentially like emotional intelligence, and I think the world needs a lot more of that. And you're definitely creating that space. So big up to you, man, for being like a futuristic parent, because like like this is where it's at. And then we're going to grow these children with that knowledge, that mindset, and this is what they're going to carry out to the future generations, and not just biological children that they produce or whatever, but as like you're a mother to many, like you're a teacher, like everybody who you come across, like when you came to like our boys group, like people were getting emotional, like your spirit is contagious, and you're just so like welcoming and nurturing and loving that like you leave an impact. So it's yeah, we just got to keep doing what we're doing.
Like I love that you say, because with Nazarene, you have little ones, especially in those of us in community who have that intersectionality. Oh my gosh, they look to you like there's like Stephanie, this little one. She's like, look, there's Nazarene. Oh my gosh, because
Right.
they see themselves, in
Yes.
that kind of future too. And of course, as dancers, we have that as well too, to kind of build up that dancing, those future dancers too, because
Yes.
as we know, like how you spoke earlier about music, and dance is a form of that expression through that music, which is like our cultures are very linked in that way. And like lots of cultures all over have that drum and dance,
Yes.
and what
Yes.
that is. And through Naz and I, that's how we connect, and through hip hop as well, because we're both
Yeah.
hip hop heads.
Yeah. Well, Naz, can
Yeah,
you tell me
like
like
even as she has lived, like she has Black Moon shirt on.
Come on.
I
I'm like,
I
y'all are
danced
just,
Black Moon, who wasn't even you
come
were born
on.
when Black Moon was around.
I love it. Like these, hip hop babies, So my daughter had a Wu-Tang shirt, and she comes to me, she's like, "Wu-Tang's for the kids." I swear, I almost like shed a tear. I was like, oh, it's so beautiful to see like the intergeneration and just like the connection, and this is it right here. It's so beautiful. But Naz, I wanted to ask you like what does it feel to like dance? Like what does that do for you?
I like I love dancing, but I really love dancing with mom because it's
Mm,
like we're connecting and we can tell each other like what we're gonna do next without talking.
Yeah,
And it's like I can't do that with anybody else except for Indy, a little bit,
your little
my little
sister.
sister.
really?
Yeah, it's
Can
like
can you can you
yeah.
talk more a bit about that? Like that because Nichole, I've seen you dance, and just the way how you're connecting, like there is like a language without actually speaking, but this is really fascinating. And you said like you're able to do that with your mom and then like your sister, as you mentioned. Like so yeah, could you speak more to that? Like what's that like having that like sense of knowing, that connection? That's deep.
It makes me feel like really connected with my mom and
Mm,
Indy too.
Yeah, it's like we're able to, I don't know how I feel it, like when I'm in that connection with you, it's like this happiness. It's
mm,
like the joy of being able to um that's why dancing powwow is great. I also we really love dancing to hip hop, like of course all kinds, but we are
yeah.
also like we dance for Snotty Nose, which is an
Yep,
indigenous
yep,
hip hop group.
yep.
And it's like you get to ride the beat and then the lyrics, right? So you get to dance in between. And we do that with
Wow.
powwow too. So you're able
Whoa.
to dance with the drum beat, but then you can move with the singers, right? And I'm a big one as a dancer of, we visually look great, because we're moving, we have regalia, we look, we're the visual aspects. And as a very visual culture, sometimes we forget what's behind the visual. And for
Mm,
powwow, it's always the singers. Like we wouldn't be anywhere without the singers.
mm.
And sometimes we forget that, right? And we forget about the power and we think, oh, it's just the drum beat, but their voice.
Yeah, because it's like when I dance with you and Indy and then with Isaiah singing, it's the best.
Yeah. And then we can do that with hip hop too, but it has a different thing because where powwow is, there's word songs, right, which
Right.
are in different languages, Sioux, Ojibwe, some Cree, but with hip hop, it's like English words, and you can do a little different
Right.
gestures, little things that are different. And like when we were doing the Polaris Gala, like Naz was supposed to be in the I can't remember our name video, but at the time she was a teenager, and
Right.
I couldn't get a hold of her.
A younger teenager.
You're a younger teenager.
Right.
She's 17 now, but I was like, yo,
Hey.
Naz, we gotta go for the video shoot, and I couldn't find her.
Uh,
You were hanging out with your friends, so you missed that
right.
boat, right? But you were there for the Polaris Gala, and it's like we're able to just
Wow.
look at each other and know when it's time to switch spots. We can just look at
Mm,
each other, and it's a smile, it's a gesture, and that's kind of what that language is. And we're able to move. Naz can do a look to me, and I know, okay, now it's the time to do a spin, or it's time to do this, and we can speak that
mm.
music language, I
Yeah,
guess.
no, no, for sure. For sure. I mean, like as you're speaking, like I can't help but to think that like you have always had that connection with her. Like I'm pretty sure you can recall like times when she was like an infant and having those kinds of connections as well. This isn't like an overnight thing. This is something that's like cultivated intentionally,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's beautiful.
And our what, like when you're reminding me now, like even pregnancy, like you were there
Mm,
in the waters, and that's like
mm,
we say like water is life. It's life to all life, but it's life to us. Like so when we dance and we're moving our bodies, but we're also moving the water within our bodies. So when we look at that tuber wampum belt, that one of those original
yes.
treaties, each row is the settler way and the indigenous way, and we're supposed to take care of each other. And the white part is that water. And we're
Right.
supposed to take care of the environment and the water so that all life can be. It's the same thing when we're dancing, right? We're taking care of the waters in our bodies, as well as, you know, we might be praying for the water too. Like,
Yeah.
I remember Nazarene the first time she danced Fancy Shawl with me. She's the reason why I started dancing. Is because when she was small, like I always wanted to dance when I was young.
Okay.
But I got, I was also raised with, I didn't have a biological mother.
Okay.
It was my grandmother who was my mother for the first 7 years. And then my dad remarried. And then I don't like the word stepmom because I feel like
I agree.
it doesn't do justice to those stepping into those roles.
It doesn't. Agreed.
But she became my mom, and it was a very different way. Like, you know, in her family, they were like, "Oh, you don't sing very good. Oh, you don't dance very good." So they had that in their family. So I was like, "Oh, I'm not gonna dance." And you were at a powwow, and she was just little, like just
how old?
To walk, and she wanted to touch a jingle dress, and I said no. And then we were at the Native Canadian Center, and it was Deanne Hupfield. She was Morrison at the time before she got married. And she'd had a dance class. And I was like, oh, I'm going to take Nazarene. Nazarene, you can start. And regalia making class, we can start your dancing journey. And she said, if you want to dance, if you want your daughter to dance, you have to dance. So I said, okay. So then that was the start. So then I started dancing, and then Naz she started dancing with me. We danced Fancy. And she was about 7 years old after dancing Fancy for a few years and asked for a jingle dress. And that's a different style of dance, as some of you may know, that healing dance.
Yes.
So our good friend EJ Kwanda Benz made her dress for her. We feasted her dress to give, to feed that life of, in the spirit of those regalias. And you danced your first powwow, and you got offered lots of tobacco from the community. Wow. And you said, Mommy, this dance is hard. Can I take the dress off now? I just want to play it.
Oh, right? I love it. So cute.
And that's that little kid in you. But now, you know, you got that teaching of the importance, and you're primarily a Fancy Shawl dancer, but we also have she dances jingle. Sometimes she'll use my dress, but you know the difference between that, right? And then we were at a powwow in Shawanaga. Now, this is before, so Nazarene was about 6. And there was a community member, Elsie, who's from Mississauga in the Blind River, and she went around giving to different powwows, picking one youth to give water teachings to. She picked Nazarene. We actually have a picture of her walking away with her copper vessel, going to get teachings from Elsie. At the time, I was with Nazarene's dad, you know, when we were together. And what we didn't know is Elsie is a community member and a cousin and an auntie of my partner, Isaiah Keda now. Wow. Indy's dad. So Nazarene was actually getting teachings from a community that she would be very close to before she became a part of that community. And even though her dad and I are not together, he's still a part of the community too. Absolutely. His partner is a fancy dancer as well.
Amazing.
Yep, she has a little sister.
There we go.
Amara, who is your dad is now a father to, actually was Nazarene's childhood friend. And your sister is a boot dancer.
And I knew like Amara ever since her mom was like pregnant with her.
Yep.
Amazing.
So we have a lot of like, it's a family that's just gotten bigger. Even though, you know, sometimes we think, oh, when couples break up, but that's not how we roll.
I love that.
Love
man.
And respect for each other.
I'm the same way too, you know, like I'm not with like the mothers of my children, but like we still have that very much family connection. And that was also really important for me, like for my daughters to see that, you know, like family can look in so many different ways. And I grew up in where, you know, people separate and then it's like, it's beef. It's like, I hate you, this and that, and all kinds of language that kids don't really care about. Like, I remember being a kid, like, I love my mom, I love my dad. Like, that's all that really matters. Like, I don't really care for whatever politics that was going on. And that's something that I always remembered as a kid, and growing up. I was like, I don't want my kids to ever experience that. I want them to see that we're able to, like, you know, I can go to my daughter's, you know, family house in Montreal, sit down, have dinner, crack jokes, and be a family in that capacity. It just looks different, but we're still connected. And there's that, the respect and the co-parenting and all that is there, you know. So it's a very fortunate space, and I'm realizing that not everybody's fortunate to have that kind of like sense of community, and to kind of like rise up out of those, like, I guess, like, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, just like those challenges, you know, like, you know,
And
because
that right there is a way to, like, another act of decolonization,
there we
and
go.
having our communities come back together, even in the family units when they turn, because we get that, like, we think about it, a lot of our grandmothers and aunties watched like soap operas, and we saw how that stuff went when that we're cleaning that out, and
Yeah.
we're really coming into that community and understanding that, yeah, so it's another act of resistance, like you said earlier in our talk, you know, and
Yes.
that's important.
No, it really is. And you know, real quick, I just want to go back to, like, you know, your daughter bringing you back into dance. And you know, it like, as you're saying it's like it was something that was always there for you, but it was just dormant, you know, because like you said, like, you're in this environment where it's like, if you try to sing, it's like, oh, you don't sound like Whitney Houston, so don't bother, or something like that. And it's just like, well, oh, okay. And then you get shut down. And I remember, you know, growing up and feeling the same way on certain aspects, whether it's like hockey or even like rapping. There's a time where, you know, I almost stopped doing that. And I'm so glad I didn't, because I wouldn't be doing the things that I'm doing now, because hip hop brought me into a whole nother world, which we can probably say for another live. But you know, like, it's just amazing how, like, our children can bring us back to, like, our essence, you know, and how this, like, student teacher element is, like, interchangeable, you know. So, like, depending, you know, so, like, today, like, your daughter might be the teacher, and then tomorrow it's you, and then so on and so forth. But to be open to that and to be aware of that, I think, is the magic. And oftentimes we're like, we come from a place where it's like, well, children are supposed to be seen and you know, like, not heard, and you're just a child, don't worry about that. Like, that's just as madness to me, you know. Like, I've become really present, and I definitely have to thank, like, indigenous teachings for that, you know, where there's teachers and everything, whether it's like the other day, like, this, like, little, like, bird just kind of, like, was trying to communicate with me, and then just, like, sat on my lap, like, on my knee, and I was like, what is this? And it was a sign of, like, nurture and connection. And these are things that I wouldn't have been present to. I would have been like, get out, like, shoo it away or whatever. But I had to, like, really embrace and see these different teachers and how they show up, you know. So it's super, super important.
Yeah, it's so true, because they are, and that um, children being seen and not heard is like, we grew up with that, right?
Yeah.
And I find that so beautiful that we can have that be told, but then we have, so when we talk about that seventh generation in
Come
our
on.
teachings of changing things and bringing it back to that kindness and that understanding of what life really is,
Yeah.
is that, like, my nanny, she told me, she used to say that to me, children are to be seen but not heard, but then also then told me, you know, be careful of those who don't bow before children, right? So it's like the same, but she told me that
Mm,
later on in
mm.
her grandma years, and I was thankful for that, because, like, Naz is my teacher, you know.
Yes.
Indy is, my son Justin. I had a child at 16 that passed. Her name was
Mm,
Nazarene's oldest sibling. Oh my gosh,
mm.
so many teachings in that.
Yes.
And yep, soon, and then when you're still gonna be teaching me stuff. It's beautiful.
Man. Love, love, love. I mean, this has been, like, a rich, powerful discussion. I'm so grateful that you made time for this. Like I said, it was last minute. I just reached out just on a whim. It was a thought that came to me. It was like, yeah, like, it'd be kind of cool to have a discussion on this. And you came through as always, and I just appreciate you so much. And you know, I see we're coming.
And Naz got up, just woke right up. just camping with her dad and Tanya and her sisters
I
this
love
past
it.
weekend. She just got home, and then I was
Wow.
like, "Az, help me with this. Hey, you want to stay? Oh
You
yeah,
see what
yeah."
I'm saying? Like it's and you know what's interesting? Like a lot of these like Monday lives that I do, like are like these people don't know this, but I'm gonna let it out. Like a lot of the topics are like created like last minute, like literally like the late night or in the morning, and somehow things just always come together. Sometimes they even have like guests like in the chat just jump on the live and they share their opinion, and that's really what we wanted, just to create this like community space, you know. So
It's
um,
beautiful, and I'm always thankful for the work that you do. Even before we came in to your classroom there, I've always watched what you've done in the community
appreciate
and
it.
seen it, and it's absolutely beautiful.
Thank you,
So
thank you.
big shout out to you and so much love to you, Ledger, because and to have that trust to know, what, I
Yes,
could throw something together last minute like this and it's just going to be beautiful. That is a power in itself, because
I know.
sometimes we self-doubt.
Oh
And
man.
that's another teaching of John Trudell, is through the
Mm,
self-doubt, insecurities,
mm.
and all of those that we disconnect. But when you have the power to do that, to be like, it's gonna be good and it's gonna be great. That is really tapping into your power. So
Thank
thank you
you.
for that.
Wow.
That's
Oh
beautiful.
man, it's
And for
getting me
Nazarene
emotional
being able
now.
to witness it, epic.
Oh my gosh. Yo, I just want to shout out all the people in the chats. Let me see here. I see Sage MC Mahone. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It says, "I always fill my heart to hear your voice, knowledge and stories, Nichole and Nazarene. Thank you for allowing me to listen into this dialogue." Yes, beautiful, beautiful. See some hearts here. Um, see Maya Gomez official, some hearts, strawberry fire. I like that.
We love you,
Shout
Maya.
shout out symbolic one says this is such a beautiful discussion. I appreciate this so much. I am at a 10 now. Yo, that's what's up, man. We're raising vibrations out here, man. That's what we're doing.
And Maya gave us a shout out there, and we just want to see, like, we were a part of Maya's video. We're in their music video. I Can't Breathe, which is really a beautiful. It's a beautiful, powerful, meaningful video. If any of you get a chance to see it,
I
it's
can't read.
absolutely
Okay.
gorgeous, and it actually tells a beautiful story with Nazarene and I in it, along with their personal stories. It's beautiful.
Amazing. Okay.
So
I'm
Maya,
gonna look
love
that up
you.
for sure. Appreciate that. Appreciate that.
Because
Yeah, man.
when we talk about that music too, because they do, they are have their different style of music, and it's absolutely beautiful that we can have these communities come in that way, um, and it's like it's another that form of connection, is
Mm,
through music, through dance, through community and understanding. It's beautiful.
amazing. Love it. Love it. I'm gonna keep this. We got a few more shout outs, man. Shout out Jolene. Saying thank you all. You are all such a gift in this life. My gratitude. Give thanks, man. Jolene, you're a gift as well. Like I see all the work you're doing. Amazing, amazing individual. Shout out Daisy, man, saying a great convo and insight. Thank you, much gratitude. Got Moonstone 56, big up, saying thank you for creating this enlightening and beautiful space. Love, hashtag authenticity.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yes. Symbolic came back and said, what's it called? What's the music video called again?
I Can't Breathe.
I can't read.
Breathe.
I'm just gonna put.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, and that was over the pandemic.
Mm,
From Nazarene is and I are featured in it. It's absolutely beautiful to be able to work with, and it actually tells that story of us passing passing on to the next generation, and also also speaks to like what it's like, for us, for like me as her mother, not knowing that, because when we talk about what's going on in societal wise, right?
right.
In society, especially when a lot of the protests happened after George Floyd
Hmm.
and whatnot, what that would be like for our future generations, and for
Mm,
um, so it's
that's
really looked
beautiful.
at that systematic and that oppressions and how it comes really into our personal lives. Beautiful. Just get me
Amazing.
thinking.
Yeah, that's what
And
we
being
do.
in
We
the
feed
right.
off. Well, you know, all this might be something for our Thursday group because, like I said, I'm gonna have you come through to our Thursday virtual group, and this might be something that we can discuss. And you know, like I'm just gonna like find ways to just plug you into like everything. There, we have a lot of like, you know, especially in September when schools start get back up, and you know, like I want to like make something like official, like some kind of official partnership or something, because both of you have so much insight and teachings and wisdom, and I'm just excited to learn and to contribute and to share, and I just feel something like really really powerful. So thank you all,
Oh,
and
thank
yes, and you know, continue to do the work that you're doing because it's extremely important and it's powerful. People are taking note. People are being inspired. You know, like I'm becoming really present to how much people were able to inspire that we're not even aware of. You know what I mean? Like just from me being me, like me just doing my thing. Like some of my people may see me with my kids, and I'm just doing what, you know, fatherhood does. You know what I mean? And but for other people, it's like seeing those examples are like super important, and I don't realize that. You know, so it's really really cool. You know, so continue to just be yourself, and like you said, that knowing. You know, sometimes I'm about to like, you know, like teach a class and I don't have a work plan. I'm just going to freestyle. This is hip
Yeah.
hop to me, man. I know you know what I'm talking about. I know you know.
Yep.
And like you said, like it comes out and it's beautiful. It always, there has never been a time. A matter of fact, when I overplan, that's when things get a little crazy, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's so true, and how that's a gift and that's a talent in itself. And I'm gonna take that away in this conversation and to trust that more because I have my own insecurities, believe it or not, and whatnot. But like, I'm really gonna hold that one with me. So thank you.
We reach for that because
Yes,
it's living that authentic. It's just you, right? And
that's it.
that's what we love is
Thank
being
you.
our honest, true selves. Yeah,
I love
absolutely.
it. So we are going to end like that. Thank you, everybody who's been rocking with us. You know, every Monday, man, we have our check-in, man, you good fam, and where we have, you know, authentic conversations and people. So if anybody has any other topics that they, you know, feel the need to cover, you know, please let me know. But we're going to keep it going, man, every week. And so thank you for being here. And yeah, man, we'll see y'all next week, man. Till next time.
Thank
All
you, Rich.
right. Thank you, Rich.
Thank you,
Peace.
Rich.